And then there was the kind of a willful surrender for those, Peter and the other disciples, who had given up everything to follow Jesus. And so they surrendered because they burned bridges. They didn't have options, is what they were saying. And so for us today, when we think about doubt, we're kind of faced with those same choices. And how are we going to handle our struggle here? Are we going to reject it and say, you know what, I'm going to do my own thing, I don't agree? Are we going to kind of comply, but subtly we're frustrated or we're angry or we're looking for a reason to manipulate it to our favor? Or do we just willfully surrender and trust God through all of this? How can we be sure we make the right response? The one that would really remove the kind of doubt that we have? Well, first of all, we need to recognize what I call doubt feeders, things that kind of fuel the doubt in our life. The first one is a lack of understanding of who God is. Most people around Jesus' day, they didn't understand. As I said before, they didn't really get everything Jesus was saying was opposite from what they described. I mean, the very fact of him being blasphemous by calling himself equal to God is just, they don't even want to go there. It's almost a sin to even entertain the thought in their life. And they didn't understand that. The very things Jesus was teaching were opposite from what they had. And so they didn't get that. And so they resulted to go back to what they held on to what they would believe as opposed to giving it up and trying to be able to embrace what Jesus was trying to teach. In the moments of our life, we have the same thing. When we don't fully understand, we have a choice. Do we hold on to what we would believe then and say, okay, well, this is as far as I'm going. This is all that I believe, and I'm not going any farther? Or do we just set aside our agendas and our understanding and say, look, I'm an open book. I'm willing to go wherever you want to go with this, God. I'm willing to let you teach me and to show me and reveal to me who you are. That's what we're doing as leaders when we're with this church. I mean, like I said, people freak out when I suggest the concept that maybe we would move out of this into a school. It's not because I want to. Far be it. It's because for us to fully be able to be open to understanding what God wants is to be able to be like Abraham with Isaac and lay it on the altar and say, look at God, if this building stands in the way, let's get rid of it. That's the struggle that I have as a pastor. Because honestly, for me, it's like saying, look, if I am in the way, then get rid of it. The problem is a lack of understanding of what God is up to and who God is can cause the enemy to manipulate that into our thinking and to pull us the wrong direction that maybe he never intended it for us to go, because we try to understand it in the concept of our expectations and what we think God is up to, and I got to wrap my head around this, so let me put God in the kind of box that I can understand. But when we do that, then God is no longer all-powerful. God is not big enough. God is not in control. And the God that we try to define becomes unreliable. And so lack of understanding really can feed the doubt in us if we really try to be able to, if we don't understand who God is. Second one is a lack of security in who we are. In rejecting, what we don't understand, the followers, left it up to themselves. They said, look, if I'm given a choice between what Jesus is saying, I'm just going to hold on to the security of what I believe and where I'm at and the things that I have. And so then they ended up going that direction, and they're going to just, I'm going my way. Insecurity is defined as self-doubt. That's what insecurity really is. And so when we shift our attention away from God and we say, okay, then let me hold on to what I do know and let me hold on to it, and we try to put that into ourselves and we become dependent on ourselves, there's a problem with that. We know our weaknesses. We know our failures. We know the things we don't do well and do right. And so it's like saying, okay, this has got to get done. And, okay, I'm the one who's got to do it, but I'm also the one who knows how badly I do it, so we're screwed. That's what we go through. And so a lack of security in who we are and measuring ourselves based on our imperfections just creates chaos and doubt and fear and insecurity in our life. And we struggle. The third one, kind of a feeder in it, is a lack of willingness to surrender. In the end, it becomes an issue of surrender in these followers. Who are they willing to have in control? If they're unwilling to trust God and to believe, even if they don't understand, and they're unwilling to surrender, if they make God too small because unless I understand it, then I won't accept it. Then they're not willing to surrender and give it over to God, and they try to keep it themselves, which again goes back to the feeding of the doubt, because we know who we are. It doesn't work. It really doesn't matter the context. I mean, we talk about the disciples, I talk about myself, but it can also be about you. It doesn't matter the context, because that process is the same. When you're in a situation that you don't understand, you're trying to be able to make sense of it, or you try to take God, you're asking yourself, well, God, deliver me from this situation. Is what I'm doing working? Are my kids going to be able to get it? Is God mad at me? Maybe he's punishing me and something like that. All these thoughts that kind of go, if we don't understand them, and then we just say, well, I've got to make sense of every thought, and then we draw our own conclusions. And usually when we draw our conclusions because we don't understand God, we draw it into the things we do understand, which is us. We say, well, that makes sense. I'm a screw up. No wonder it didn't work. I can't do it like that pastor over there, so I'm not surprised. It's not working here. And we try to put it into a place where it just feeds all that insecurity that's in our life. And so you end up trading off, surrendering yourself to what God is to fight your own agenda. And you can reject God. Maybe you reject God and what you know He has want because you want to control it, or maybe you're angry with Him and you fight it yourself. You want God to be on your terms, and because He won't be on your terms, then therefore you're going to do it your own way. It's all of those things combined. For those of you who know me personally, and it's been a lot of years and we've changed faces, so I can use old stories probably, and none of you would remember them. A few of them you would, but most of you wouldn't. I've been here since 1998. We moved here. Real estate's my background. I won't go through the whole story for those of you who've heard it already, but my wife and I came with a real excitement about what God would do or could do. Taking our own brokenness and our marriage struggles, taking our own life and the difficulties that we've had in life, and the possibility that we could come along other marriages and help them. It was just like, it was a drug to an addict. It was just, the thought of it was just so exciting. And no doubt it motivated us to do crazy things and giving up our family and moving it because of the possibilities. And then the church coming together and the way God brought people, it was just an amazing thing to watch. And then the dream coming into this place and all that kind of stuff, it's just one thing after another. It was just exciting. And it was great stuff doing it. And it was very unique because I had gone through a different avenue. I didn't really have all the formal training. And so for me, it was like, God, I don't know what I'm doing, but you do. So therefore, I'm along for the ride. And I get all that, and this is all good. And it's all about God. But somewhere along the way, we plateaued. And so we'd try different things, and those who have been around know how frustrating it is. I got all kinds of graphs. I think I showed some of them on one of my sermons, but we tried different things. That didn't work. We'll try this. We didn't know. We challenged people. We almost to the point of just, I'm sure people felt frustrated because it's like, I backed off because I thought, okay, for me, I'm not a pushy person. I see Jesus, he said, the rich young ruler doesn't want to do what Jesus wants. He leaves. Jesus doesn't chase him down. It's like, let them go do they'll do it when they're ready. So that's kind of me, and I just let people do it. But then someone said, well, here's a problem. You don't follow up people. They don't think you care. Oh, okay. Or you got. And I'm saying this and sounding very confusing because I'm trying to not make this a therapy session. You read books and you talk to people, and everybody has an idea. And I'm a perfectionist. I admit it. Hi, I'm Mark. I'm a perfectionist. Yeah, thank you. I share with most people that it's very difficult to think of a sermon. I can't think of a sermon that I thought, man, I hit it out of the park. If I get a double, that's a good day, for me. And don't ask me how I measure that. But anyway. But that's okay, because God knows who I am, and it's all good. But when things didn't seem to be going the way I thought they were going to go, like I could have swore God and I were on the same page, God's perfect, so it ain't him. It's got to be me. And the enemy constantly fights that. And I'm a very rational thinker. Lisa hates me for that. I'm very analytical. So I can talk myself out of it and say, nah, but God knew who I was when he got me. I mean, he said I can work with that. And he did it. And then I throw in the whole, Jonah thing. If God could use a guy like Jonah who just said, you guys all going to hell, and then convert 30,000 people, I mean, shoot, I can do better than that, And so you play those things in your head, and you rationalize those things. But if in your heart you have not really embraced the truth of what the Gospels really tells us, you're just spinning these tapes in your head. So this whole re-examination process is one where it's like taking your laundry and laying it out on the table and say, let's go through this, figure out what this is. And I knowingly went into this because I want to figure out what it is. As I said before, I care so much. And I really want to know. I want to know, God, if there's anything that we are obstacles that we have, or anything that I would, if I do need to get into people's faces or whatever, then maybe that's what we should do. And willing to look at any of it. But it's, as anybody would know, going through laundry is never a good thing, and or old stuff, because the enemy's saying, there you go, right there, there's one of them. And, oh, there's another one. Yeah, you remember so-and-so, look at their church now, look what they did, and he didn't do that. So there you go. And on and on and on down the road. And so we have to be careful. And I'm just using me and my situation, and forgive me for that, but every one of us have that. I got to imagine any one of us can go down those deep, dark roads when we let the enemy play those things in our head of what we've done wrong. And we cannot, that's not where we got to go. And so what we have to do is we really have to find those things in our life that are kind of doubt beaters, reinforce those things in our life and use those as a way to kind of get us back. Because, as I said, doubt is something that happens, and God uses doubt in a good way. It helps us be refocused in on what God's doing. And so it's good to be able to, it's okay for that to happen as long as we just reinforce it with the right kind of stuff. And so the first one is we got to change my thinking, is what I'm trying to do. Peter might not understand what Jesus was saying, and I'm sure he didn't. I'm sure many of the disciples didn't understand it. But he knew this. In verses 6 through 9, he says, your words have you have words of eternal life. You are the Holy One of God. That's all I know. That's all. I mean, I can't figure the rest of it out. And we know later on, he still didn't have it figured out after Jesus even died. He denied Jesus and all of that. But he knew that to be true. And that was at the center of his thinking. Who Christ was. And everything else gets built off of that. Romans 12:2 says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That we got to start from a place of saying, God, you have got to change my thinking. And I need to move my thinking in a way that I understand more. And that I'm growing in that and in the things that I can hold on to. The path out of doubt is to focus our thinking on who God is. John Wesley once said, I have never known more than 15 minutes of anxiety and fear. I thought, boy, I tell you, I wish I was that guy. When I feel fearful emotion overtaking me,